Welcome back, adventurers. Today we are at Disney's Animal Kingdom at opening time, just after 9 a.m. And there's only a 10-minute wait for the Kilimanjaro Safaris. So let's go in and see if the animals are awake this morning. You're watching Lucas TV Adventures.
You're going to take 654, 39, 654, 39, 654.
Nobody doesn't even walk themselves. My name is Maddie. I'm from a small town called Saline, Michigan, and I'm going to be your safari driver out here through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. My friends, if you take a look up above your heads, you will see an animal spotting guide up there. That is going to help you identify some of the animals that we might be seeing here on our journey. Now, you're welcome to sit on your laps. It might help them see a little bit better once we get out here. However, if you choose to do that option, now is going to be your last opportunity to make that switch. So take the time right now if you do want to put children on your lap. On the top of the hill to your left, if you take a pretty close look up there, there's a tan-colored antelope up there. That's called the greater kudu. It is the second tallest antelope in Africa, and we can tell that those ones are females because they do not have any horns. Another animal here on your left-hand side, a dark orange coloration to their body, is the bongo. They have the nickname of the ghost of the forest because this dark orange color and white stripe pattern on their body is a great combination to help them blend into the background. Their horns do face backwards, and that way when they run through some of the tall brush, those horns don't get tangled. And a couple of black and white birds here on your right. This is a saddle-billed stork. Now they get their name because there's a little yellow part on their bill that does kind of look like a saddle. I'm spotted around this one here to your left are the very beautiful black rhinos. Now as I do start to pull forward, there's two of them. There's one up against that wall off on the left hand side, but of course there's going to be a second one much closer here standing just on the other side of the watering hole. Now, unfortunately though, these black rhinos have been hunted nearly to extinction, and hundreds of thousands have actually been killed for their horns. Today, there is less than 5,000 of these black rhinos left in the entire world, up to about 5,500 pounds. So they are very, very large animals. Like I said, couple in the water there to the right, but as I pull forward, look on the left side, back behind the island, there's actually a whole group of them down in the water. Now, group name for hippos is a pretty fun one. It's called a bloat. Also on the left, a bunch of gray birds here. These are the pink-backed pelicans. Now, they get their name because during mating season, the colors of the males' backs do indeed change from gray to pink. But my friends, even though these hippos are such large animals, they're actually excellent swimmers, but they do prefer to walk or glide on the bottom of the river instead of trying to swim through any of the water. They're also nocturnal animals, so they will spend up to about 16 hours of their day submerged in the water. But look down on your left side, that is your second Nile species there. Those are the Nile crocodiles. Now these crocodiles are actually cold-blooded animals, so they do like to kind of hang outside the water, and they will soak up some of that sun to warm their bodies up. Now once they get too warm, you might see them jump off into the water or sometimes just open up their mouths. Well, that actually allows them to help push out some of that warm air and to regulate their body temperatures because they don't have any sweat glands. But my friends, we are now entering off into that different ecosystem. This is also my personal favorite view on the reserve, so I would like to welcome everyone to the Savanna grasslands and popular animals like the elephants and of course the very beautiful giraffes. But my friends, this is the Africa we are working so incredibly hard to conserve. Take a look there on your right hand side, of course, to start to see a couple of giraffes. There's also an animal here on the right that has these really, really big horns, and that's Ankole cattle. Now, Ankole cattle is the only domesticated animal on the reserve, and they are also known as the Watusi cattle, named after the Watusi tribe that domesticated them. Now, the African wild dogs are also known as painted dogs due to the very unique markings on their body. They're typically born more all black, and as I start to get a little bit bigger and mature, that black color will actually fade off into a lot of the tan and the white that you can see there. But unlike other dogs and wolves, they only have 4 toes, and of course they are absolutely adorable because they do have ears kind of like Mickey Mouse. Some of the antelope will actually go stand on top of them as a way to try and look out for any lions that might be hiding off within some of the really tall brush. Now they are made out of dirt, saliva, and of course a little bit of dung. I will pull forward and take a quick stop because if you look pretty closely on the right hand side here, there are a couple of younger giraffes that are actually sitting down here on your right. Now these giraffes, of course, they are the world's tallest land animal, but believe it or not, they only have 7 vertebrae in their necks. Well, that, of course, is the exact same amount that we have in our necks. Theirs are obviously just much, much larger than ours.
That's cool, right?
Now you might notice that the pattern on these giraffes' bodies is actually very irregular. Well, that is a pretty easy way to tell that they are indeed Maasai giraffes. Also, it does kind of look like they've got horns on their heads, but those are not horns. They're actually called ossicones. Now, when a baby giraffe is born, they can look a full-grown man directly in the eye, standing at about 6 feet tall, and they also have about a 6-foot drop to the ground as they're being born, so it's not a very cozy way into the world. As you can imagine, it does take a lot to get that blood to pump throughout their bodies, so they do have some pretty big hearts. Tembo is the Swahili term for elephant, so we should see some more across the way. But as I do pull forward, my friends, take a look on the right-hand side. Of course, you will start to see that there is an African elephant standing just on the other side of the water hole here to your right. Now, my friends, there are a couple of easy ways to tell if it is a bull, also known as a male African elephant. A natural sunscreen, and of course, help to keep that skin cool and protected throughout the entirety of their day. Now, for my friends on board that are taking pictures, take the time right now to get your cameras out. Make sure that you have them on and ready to go, because in just a moment here, we will be entering off into Tembo country, and there's a couple places over here. Can't stop for a photo. And the good news is, looks like the rest of the female herd might have been through here before. Now, we can tell there's a bunch of elephant footprints down here on the ground. But also, as we do start to pull forward here, we are going to be driving through the red clay pits. So, take a pretty close look at this wall coming up on your right hand side. You might notice that there's actually a whole bunch of elephant tusk marks here within a lot of this red clay. Well, elephants, they like going up to those red clay pits and they will dig their tusk into them. Now once they get some of that clay loose, they will eat it, just in case they are missing any nutrients from their diet. So that's kind of their way to help take their vitamins in the morning. As a way to help out the African elephants as much as possible, there are a lot of scientists and researchers that are actually studying their vocal patterns to try and find out what they need. Now, one of the biggest things that they've learned is that African elephants really do not like to be around honeybees. So a lot of the farmers in Africa have been setting up honeybee fences as a way to keep the elephants out of their crops. And of course, in return, they've actually gained a new crop of honey. As I do pull forward, take a look on the left-hand side. You will start to see that there is another African elephant. A couple of them that are actually standing over here on your left. Now, my friends, take a look at the shape of these elephants' ears, because you might notice that it does make the shape of Africa. And that is a pretty easy way to tell that they are indeed African elephants. These elephants also like to take their ears and they will flap them back and forth quite a bit, just because on the inside of an elephant's ear, they do have some blood vessels. Now, when some of the cooler air hits those blood vessels, it'll actually drop their body temperatures up to about 15 degrees, so it does make quite a big difference for them. They do also have their very beautiful tusks, which are made out of ivory. Now, ivory is actually very expensive on the black market, and unfortunately, that's why these elephants are hunted and poached for those tusks. Well, my friends, we are now swinging past what's called Flamingo Island, and this is home to the greater flamingos. As I pull forward as well, on the hill to the right, there is going to be a larger tan antelope here called the Patterson's eland. Now, they're actually one of the largest antelopes in Africa, and on a full-grown male, from their shoulders to the ground, can be about 6 feet tall. Now, the term greater in these flamingos' names, it actually refers to their size. These are one of the largest flamingo species. When they're hatched gray, and they're the palest of the flamingo species, taking on that pinkish tint in about a year or two after they're born from their diet of shrimp, which contains beta-carotene, and that's actually what gives them that pinkish tint. And of course, my friends, the group name for flamingos, well, that is in fact called a flamboyant. As we do pull forward here, we are entering off into what we like to refer to as white rhino territory. Now, we do know that this is white rhino territory because of the mud pit on the ground here to your left. And of course, with these mud pits will come a couple of white rhinos. Now, these rhinos, they love going up to those mud pits, and they will actually roll around in that, kind of like they're taking a bath. They will give their bodies a really good coating of some of the mud, and then of course they let it dry. Well, that's actually their way to give themselves some sort of a natural sunscreen. They do have very wide and square mouths, and that's an easy way to tell them apart from the black rhino. But very similar to the black rhino, they do have horns made out of keratin, and of course with that poor eyesight, making it pretty easy for poachers to hunt them. Of course, so over the years, that word "white," well, it was actually mistaken for the word white, and that's how they got their name. We are in luck, my friends, as I pull forward, take a look down the hill to the left. There is a cheetah that's up and roaming around right now. Hopefully we'll get to see some more across the way here as well.
There's another one.
The cheetahs, they are the fastest land animal. Animal on the left-hand side here. It's kind of starting to walk towards us now. This is a little bontabuck. They are on the move, so we'll probably get to see them one more time here across the way, so I definitely talk about them in just a little bit. But this next big rock formation coming up here on your left-hand side, this is the Kobe rocks. It does also like to attract a lot of the big cats, and sometimes we are lucky enough to see a couple of lions that are actually hanging out around some of the Kobe rocks. As I pull forward, you will start to see them up there towards the front. Now, my friends, it can be pretty rare to see these lions out during the daytime. They're actually nocturnal animals, so they do spend about 18 to 20 hours of their day, just like these ones here, completely inactive. And of course, at nighttime, the females, they are the ones that do most of their hunting. That way the males can stay back and of course protect the pride. Now, a lion's roar, that can be heard from up to about 6 miles away, and at nighttime their eyesight will actually become 6 times stronger than it was during the day. Now, during the day we see just as well as these beautiful lions do. They do like to hang out kind of towards the top of the Kobe rocks. That actually allows them to help look down into some of that taller brush to see if there's any prey that might be trying to hide out from them. A couple of lioness on the top of the hill there as well. Now we can tell that he's probably a younger male based on the color of their manes. The older they get, the darker it'll become, and in certain parts can start to turn black. And more of those white rhinos walking around. There is also a whole nest of ostrich eggs here on your right hand side. So if you take a look up against this little island of trees, you'll see about 6 of them actually down there on the ground. Don't necessarily have to try and sit around their eggs all day long. And the beautiful bontabuck back there, well, they're actually very important animals. Sadly, you can only find them in zoos and reserves like this one because they're completely extinct in the wild. And at one point in time, there was only about 17 of those beautiful bontabuck left in the entire world. Now, coming up here on the top of the hill to your left-hand side, beautiful white and tan animal with these very long and skinny horns. This is a scimitar horn oryx. Now, they get their name because those horns on their heads do indeed look like scimitar swords. However, they're very fragile, so they do tend to break pretty easily. But those animals are unique. They can go up to 9 months without ever taking a sip of water. They actually get a really good majority of the water and the moisture that their body needs from a lot of the vegetation that they eat. Well, my friends, I am very sad to tell everyone that this gate right here does mark the end of our safari. So I'm going to drive you out to the nearest warden's post, but even though our journey has to come to an end, just for now, of course, the conservation does not. Entrance is up at the top of the hill and to your right. For any wilderness explorers on board, the name of my safari vehicle is the Simba 1. Simba and the number 1. Head back down into the village to the beige umbrella to collect your badge.